it's a struggle getting students in one. So yeah, I'll hand you over to Chris. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you, ladies, very much indeed. And again, a very big welcome from me to this election, Hustings, and the splendour of our dome here in Buxton. The University of Derby and Buxton and Leeds College are delighted you're all with us here tonight for the opportunity for some old-style debate and challenge. Professionally, I've covered elections since 1974. For those who are old enough, they'll remember the two-election year of Harold Wilson. Some are now wondering, heaven forbid, if that might happen again. It seems very close to call at the moment, doesn't it? But with nearly 3 weeks to go, every day debate and every nuance must have an impact, I think, on the results in this election. Today is the last day in which people can register to vote. So if you haven't registered, you've got until midnight, either through the council offices with a piece of paper, or you can do it online, but you must have an actual insurance number. It still amazes me the number of people in this country will not be able to vote in this general election. So if anybody hasn't got their vote, you've got until midnight tonight. So a splendid opportunity this evening to debate the party's promises and ideas, but more importantly, an opportunity to focus on this constituency. Tonight is about open, honest and respectful debate with each of our candidates, the absolute right to be heard, but also robustly challenged in a democratic fashion. And let's make our focus, if we can, as local as possible. 30 constituencies in this country since the war have won on less than 30 votes. 6 current members of Parliament have less than 100 majority. One of them has a majority of 4. And there are further 8 constituencies in this country at this moment in time where the majority is between 1 and 200 votes. So a room such as this can certainly swing an election. So what you hear tonight from those gathered on this table with me should have, and hopefully will have, an impact as you make up your mind how you're going to vote on May the 7th. So every vote of supreme value. I'm going to introduce the candidates alphabetically. For the Conservatives, the sitting MP, Mr. Andrew Bingham, elected to this constituency in May 2010. High Peak, born and bred, Andrew worked in industry prior to Parliament, supplying engineering equipment to companies across the High Peak in North Wales. For the Labour Party, Caitlin Bisnell. Caitlin is fighting even harder for the seat once again after losing out in 2010. She's the leader of High Peak Borough Council and also the Derbyshire County Councillor for Buxton North. Caitlin started work as a journalist straight from university, and then after bringing up a family work providing training in rural crafts, such as dry stone wool, and she doesn't succeed in a lot of it. For the Green Party, Charlotte Farrell. Charlotte trained as a nurse and worked for 15 years as a nurse before requalifying as a solicitor. Last year, after 10 years in the law, Charlotte left work with her partner, making orthopaedic footwear so that she could devote more time to politics. For UKIP, we have Ian Weaver. Ian is MD of a marketing and communications firm. He studied history and politics at the University of York and then moved to the sales and marketing arena in London. Following years as a committed Tory voter, Ian joined UKIP in 2006. And lastly, for the Liberal Democrat, Stephen Worrell. Stephen has lived in Glossop and Charlesworth all his life. He studied at the Manchester University, where he attained the first-class Master of Chemistry degree. He's now in the second of a 4-year PhD programme in nanoscience. So those, ladies and gentlemen, your choices as the next MP for the High Peak constituency. We'll now have an opening statement. I have a lot of questions that have been submitted via our website and via the students of this university. But I think the most important tonight is to take things to the floor. If you put your hand up, we'll bring a microphone to you. I'll try and be as fair as possible in getting opinions across this table. But I hope by the time we leave at 9 o'clock, you'll have a very good feel for how our five candidates are thinking and feeling at this particular moment in time. So, given a maximum of 3 minutes to each of our candidates to make a statement to you, and we'll start in the order that I read them out. First of all, Andrew Bingham.
Thank you, Chris. Microphone on. Right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for coming out. It's a beautiful Buxton evening. I wouldn't have blamed you if you'd have spent the evening in your garden, but thank you very much for coming. It's encouraging for those who do stand for public office when people do come on to events like this and show an interest, because I think one of the difficulties we've got in this country is the disconnect between politics and people. Many of you will know me, I'm Andrew Bingham. I've been the Member of Parliament for 5 years. I did stand in 2005, and I wasn't quite beaten by the hundreds that Chris was talking about, but it was 735. Funny how numbers stick in your mind, isn't it? I've been your MP for 5 years. When I got elected 5 years ago, I would say it's like the proudest day of my life. As somebody who was born probably about 200 yards from where I'm stood now, up at what was Corba then, and has lived in the area all his life, to have the privilege to represent this area was just something that, as I said, words can't really sum it up. And I've endeavoured in the 5 years I've been your Member of Parliament to, as I promised 5 years ago, to put the High Peak first, to be the High Peak voice in Westminster and not the other way around. I'm a proud Conservative, and I'm proud of the government, and I'm proud of what we've achieved. But I'm also proud of the fact that on occasions I felt the government has done something that I didn't agree with, or I felt that disproportionately affected the constituents here. And consequently, I've stood up and I've said, I'm sorry, I'm not going to support it. It's not won me a lot of friends in Westminster on occasions, but I did what I thought was right. And I had a discussion before we came in about my vote against getting involved in Syria. And I know not everybody thought that was right. But when you're a Member of Parliament, you have to make a decision. And you make that decision, and you base it on evidence. And I think I have, and I hope people will agree with this. I've always been prepared to listen to both sides of every argument, and on occasions, I've taken a position, I've looked at the evidence subsequently and thought, actually, that's not right, and I've been willing to change my mind. We hear a lot in politics about U-turns. I don't have a problem with U-turns sometimes. I think it takes a bigger person to say, you know, I was wrong, and I'll change my mind, and I'll do it a different way. And whatever the decision is, whenever I have to vote on something, I know that I'm going to displease part of the population. Because not everybody agrees on everything, and that's what politics is about. It's about debate, and what we'll have tonight. But I hope that people understand that when I have voted on something they've not agreed with, that I have listened to their sides of the argument, I have looked at all sides, and thought about it carefully before making my decision. I was elected to represent you. That's what I've endeavoured to do. That's what, if I'm successful on May the 7th, and I sincerely hope I am. I hope that I will continue to listen to constituents, work for constituents, and represent it to the best of my ability. I'm not going to stand up here and hope this evening we'll have a wide range of discussion. I could recite you party policy, I could recite you the manifesto. I think probably what you're more interested in, because you can get that off the television, you can get that off David Cameron and Miliband and off Nick Clegg. I think what you're more interested in is the sort of person who you are sending to Westminster to represent you and to be your voice in what, after all, is the mother of parliaments. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew.
Good evening. The reason I got into politics was because of fairness and equality. I believe everyone desires the best out of society, the best in life, and that's why I joined the Labour Party. 5 years ago, there were no food banks in High Peak. Today, there is one in every large town. That is one of the results of this current Tory Lib Dem government. It's become a bit of a symbol of Cameron's Britain today, back to the bad old days of the 1920s and beyond. Alongside that, we've got zero-hours contracts with youngsters and old people turning up, not knowing whether they're going to get a job at the end of the day or not. And that is not the kind of society I want to live in. I don't think that's the kind of society we deserve in the 21st century. Of course, there needs to be a balance. We need to reward people, but we also need to support people who need that help. And there are a lot of people out there who genuinely need our help and support. We need to speak up for local people, for ordinary people, and their voices are too often not heard. As leader of the Borough Council, one of the first things I did was to set up a series of community voice meetings that have met regularly in every area of the borough over the last 4 years, 2 or 3 times a year, meeting members of voluntary groups, sort of sit down, discuss issues, see where we've got areas of common need, common desire, so that we can actually work together. It's about, we've got to work better together these days in partnership with others, with the university, with the councils, with the CDS, with the voluntary sector. And that way we end up with a far better society than we have at the moment. You also need an MP you can relate to, and to whom you can relate and who relates to you. and that has a lot to do with that person's party's policies. Obviously, I will say that I think Labour's policies are much better for this community than other parties. I would also say that this election is important. All elections are important. I've never not voted in an election. But this one I think is the most important for a lifetime. We really do stand at a junction, an important junction. Some people have called it a crossroads. Actually, it's more like a fork in the road. You can either go left with Labour's caring policies that help people, that support people, or you can take the right fork, which rewards those who've already got plenty and gives tax breaks to them as well. They don't need them and they shouldn't be getting them. High Peak is an amazing place to live, but its beauty hides a real hard poverty. It's a working landscape that can be hard. It's not just chocolate box pretty. We need jobs and we need houses. And those are often difficult to come by in an area like this. As I said, it's fine to be a local MP, and I will be your MP. But we do need to listen to people's concerns. But at the end of the day, you're also backing a party.
That's fine, thank you.
Thank you, Kate.
I'm standing as MP because I want to stand up to austerity, climate change and inequality. Because I think they're the biggest threats to the world at the moment. They're the biggest threats locally, nationally and globally. And of course, they're all interlinked. It's our economic and political systems that are driving the present things that we have, killing the environment. We're told that we need austerity to pay back the debt, but the debt only came about because of the bankers' crash and the government giving $500 billion to the bankers. And that's why we've got no money, or so they tell us. But actually we have got loads of money, it's just in the wrong places. So we need to rebalance the economy. And that's what the Green Party wants to do. We want to create a properly democratic and equal society, one where everybody is valued for what they do. So I live and work in the High Peak, in the Hope Valley. I've lived in lots of different areas throughout the country and I've done quite a few different jobs. So I'm well placed to know what people want. What I'm passionate about is building strong local communities. I was a parish councillor. I believe that with sustainability we can get our communities back functioning how they should be and protect the environment too. Because without thinking about those things, then really we're not going to have a future, and that's what I want. Thank you.
Thank you. Ask most people what they think this election's about, and they'll tell you that it's about who runs Britain for the next 5 years. Except, of course, it's not, is it? It's not about who runs Britain, because Britain isn't run here anymore, is it? It's run in Brussels. It's run in Brussels. In every area of our lives, whether it's transport or whether it's energy, whether it's how we get to work, whether it's what we trash or how we trash it or where we trash it or when we trash it, you name it, it's got Brussels stamp on it. And that means that this process fails the fundamental test of democracy. I saw Barry laughing, he thinks it's funny. I don't think it's funny. Because people died for it, didn't they? And the truth is, it fails the test because if you don't like the laws that people make, if you don't like the rules by which we have to live, you need to be able to sack the people who make those rules through the ballot box. And we can't do that anymore. That's why I'm standing in this election. And that's been demonstrably shown. People can now see that. Whether the issue is immigration, or whether it's TTIP, or whether it's houses, people can see the consequences of our increasing irrelevance. And what that means, most importantly, is not any particular rule or any particular law. What it means most of all is that when politicians say things, no matter how much they mean them, the truth is they can't deliver them. And what that means is a terrible division between politics and people. That means that people no longer trust what they're told. They no longer trust the political system. And that's further added to when the Labour Party, that people trusted for generations to look after the interests of working people, when the Labour Party oversaw a bigger gap between rich and poor, a bigger gap between north and south, and the crushing of social mobility, when the Conservative Party tells you that there will be no rise in VAT because that damages the poorest, when they tell you that there'll be no top-down reorganisation of the NHS, and that's precisely what they do, and when they tell you that they'll get on top of the deficit and they stick almost to the penny to Labour's plans, that discredits politics. So I'm standing here to be honest about politics, to say that we need to be grown up, we need to tell people the real nature of the challenges and put before them the real nature of the solutions, even if those aren't solutions that people want to hear about. And the thing I'm proudest of is that people come out of their houses, and I kid you not, they come out of their houses and they say to me, I haven't voted for 25 years, but I'm voting now and I'm voting for you.
And finally, Steve.
I'll try not to echo what's already been said. The major reason I'm standing in this election, it's been touched on, we've got this disconnect between people and politics, but I don't think it's the same across all age groups. I'm glad to see there are some people in the audience tonight who are younger than me. I think it's the first one we've had where that's true. So well done, guys. You can see you guys at the back. We talk about people not voting. It's not true all over all age brackets. Generally, the older you are, the more likely you are to vote, and statistics bear that out. My age group, 25 and under, is the only group less likely to vote in this election than to vote. And to me, that is absolutely appalling. If that's going to carry on through, then the democratic deficit that we talk about is just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. If people aren't voting in elections, they have no say. I did actually agree with a little bit of what Ian said, not all that much, but the idea that people, feel disengaged and disenfranchised is true. I disagree with the reasons, but the sentiment I think is true. People do feel disengaged, and we need to try and persuade them. The major reason I'm standing is to try and engage young people to vote, even if it's to vote for anyone but me, because they think I'm useless. But if they get them to vote, and that is the most important thing I can do. So I'll try and be a bit more positive about myself now. The other major reason I feel I'm standing is I'm a scientist, okay? And I feel that science has got a huge amount to give in politics in terms of informing and channeling the focus of where our policy is going. We all talk about evidence-based policy. They don't usually mean evidence. They mean, they scope the evidence, they mould it into whatever they want it to be. That's not evidence. You've got to actually look at the facts and review your policy based on that. And I feel we need more scientists in Parliament. That's part of the reason I'm standing. Julian Hooper, who's the MP for Cambridge, I'm sure some of you have seen him maybe on TV a few times. He's probably my role model in terms of wanting to be an MP. Now he gets mocked in Parliament for some of the things he says and the way he does things, but I think he's doing it the right way. So hopefully he'll continue to get mocked. Generally, I just want to pick up on a couple of points in the introduction. I haven't actually lived here all my life, I'll come clean. I did live in Manchester for a little bit when I was at uni, just in case anyone's going to jump up and say you're a liar later on. I also want to pick up on a couple of points that people have said throughout. This government has done things I am proud of and things that I am not proud of. I'm proud of the raising of the income tax threshold. That's directly benefited a lot of people I know, not least just me, but other people as well. It's also, there's things I'm not proud of. I've said in a couple of postings, particularly I feel the reviews to disability benefits have done terribly poorly and have really hurt a lot of people. I do feel the Liberal Democrats have been a moderating influence in government. I think it would have been worse without us. I'll address tuition fees now as well, I'm sure they'll come up later. But, well, no, I'm going to wait.
start by talking about the economy so we can get it out of the way, if that's okay. It is probably the most important thing for us, but I think it's really interesting here. And let's see if we can focus it down what it means here in the High Peak. So the question that has been given to us is, what will each of you do to support local businesses in providing the support they need to succeed and provide jobs for the future in the High Peak? And the other question that a lot of people have put in is, if you could add this to your list, what would you propose happens to the Nestle site, and how do you think it would benefit the town? So, should we start with Katie on this one?
The first question was around supporting local businesses. Labour's got a very clear policy on, particularly around SMEs, small and medium-sized businesses, and there are sort of vast proportion of high peak businesses are small and medium-sized. We would cut and then freeze business rates for SMEs. We also need to look at making sure that they're allowed to take on apprenticeships and we get the funding right for that, so that we're creating not just jobs now but jobs for the future. And I think that's very important for the high peak economy. Another element is that we need to have better transport links. In the north of the borough, that would mean the Mottram Tinkleton bypass, but more crucially maybe some of the changes around the peak rail fare times, travel times, which now look like they've been removed, the increase at between 4 and 6:30. But those are actually critical because it was stopping people getting to work in Manchester. It was costing them more to get to work than they were actually earning, if they were part-time workers. So that needs to be addressed. Specifically about the Nestle site, I've said for a long time that site needs to be developed sensibly with a view to what's best for the town. I know there's been a planning application for a supermarket on the site. I don't think that's the best deal. I think what we should be looking for there is a mixed-use development, possibly some housing. It's right on the edge of the town centre. Be an ideal place for small affordable homes, 1 or 2 bedroom places for either young people, young families starting up, or older people who want to sort of downsize, because we haven't got enough of that type of housing in the borough at the moment. So no reason at all why there shouldn't be some scope there for smaller sort of shop units as well. I know people have talked about having a bowling alley or a cinema or something there, but at the moment the developers aren't out there who will put the money into putting those into the town. So I think the best use for now is for a mixture of housing and retail. Thank you.
We're going to ask each of our candidates to speak for about 2 minutes on the questions, and I am looking at any of you to put their hand up. So once people have spoken, okay, Julie, yeah.
I think there's 2 aspects, at least, to the answer here. The first one is that we should tax business less. Katie's quite right. Most of the businesses in the High Peak are small businesses, like most of the businesses in Britain are small businesses, and I have the privilege of running one of them. And what you discover when you run a business is how very, very difficult it is to run a business in Britain today. There is immeasurable amounts of red tape at every point in the process. A lot of it originally well meant, a lot of it designed to protect working people, and that's right. A lot of it designed to make sure that health and safety and so on is followed, and that's right too. But the amount of red tape costs my business now thousands. I can be really quite specific about it. Much of that comes from the EU. I was going to say that. The second part of the answer is that we need to educate and skill our workforce better. I think one of the most unfortunate things about the immigration debate, and I'm not going to put on it too long here, but one of the things about the immigration debate is that we're constantly told we need to import workers from abroad because we don't have the skills in Britain. And that's true. But who's been in charge of the education system in Britain for the last 30 or 40 years? It's the people sitting to my right. And it's a really important issue. So we want to focus on far more on apprenticeships and apprenticeship skills. We want to waive the fees for young people going to university to study the kind of things that our country needs, like science, like medicine, like engineering and so on. And we want to give people back the opportunity, if they want to take it, to set up a grammar school in their area. This, frankly, is the reason that I left the Conservative Party. I went to grammar school. It changed my life. I didn't go there because I was privileged. I went there because I had a a certain ability academically, and it changed my life. And gave me the opportunities I want to see other people have.
Thank you, Ian. Steve?
No, we're not starting up. Couple of things that people already said, I'll just echo that we also support tax cuts for small and medium enterprises to try and increase and innovate sort of growth in that sector. Not for large businesses getting away with enough tax as it is, which I'm sure we'll come back to at some point. I'd also like to pick up on, I don't agree, even though I'm a science graduate, I don't think we should unfairly preferentially give basically free education to science graduates and not arts graduates. There's already a tension in universities, particularly out of Manchester, that arts graduates think they're subsidising us. If you make them pay and not pay, that's only going to get worse, so I don't think that's necessarily a good idea. In terms of the actual question, I think one of the key things we need to do is continue the regional growth funds that have been started in this Parliament. They've not done all that much yet, but what they have done is good. So it's, to me, the key is devolution of economic decision making at local level. You give local people and local authorities more say over how the money supposed to innovate and generate more economic growth in a local area. You give it to the people in that area, they definitely know how to spend it. Central government can play a part in that as well, though, by using their procurement policy to sort of try and foster local growth as well. So where central government wants to buy something to use in a local area, you should buy it locally, don't buy it from somewhere else and bring it in. You mentioned transport as well. It is key. Without good transport, the economy struggles, and transport is an issue here. The train, I didn't actually use it today, I normally do to come here, use the bus instead. The train is poor, those carriages are ancient, the service is infrequent. When I was coming back from another Hustings the other night, the last one just got cancelled because no reason, basically. So we really need to improve that, and the Lib Dems have got some good policies on electrifying as much of the remaining unelectrified lines as possible.
Thank you.
One of the problems with our community